Hey everyone, in today's video I wanted to go over bio-nanogenomics. We're going to briefly look at the chart, but the main focus here is going to be a couple of clips by the AGBT conference that they just had. And I highly recommend you watch the full thing. I'll leave it down below for you. It is about 2.5 hours, so you've been warned, but it's a very informative workshop and I highly suggest you watch the full thing. But I did give you a couple of snippets here that I'm going to leave for you, as well as just a quick look over on the chart. So as many of you know, at least today as of this upload, we are seeing quite a red day. Bio-nano's dropping pretty hard compared to some other small caps, but I wanted to show you what I see on the chart going on, and then we're going to go over those clips. But don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. I definitely appreciate you guys. Let's look at it. Now, one reason bio-nanogenomics is dropping, besides the fact that most small caps are dropping today after a very, very green day the day previously. I'm recording this here on Thursday. What's the date? I'm recording this here on Thursday the 16th. You'll see that we did break this pattern, and as I've said before, you know, Bngo loves to trade those patterns. If you're thinking of getting out now on a break of this pattern, I think it's already reacted. It's already starting to consolidate. It could, of course, break this 150 area and continue farther, but you kind of got to play it by ear. One thing that I do want to mention about Bngo is it hasn't created a new low since May 11, so we're looking at almost, 6-7 months at this point. Quite a while that this hasn't created a new low. I would argue that we are in an accumulation phase of sorts. Could always be wrong, but that's just my general thoughts. But keep in mind that we are in a longer term downtrend. However, it has been somewhat stable ever since its May 11 low. And I want you to be aware that earnings is coming out about a month from now. And this could be the breakout we need if we get a really good earnings. And until then, I think the market is going to dictate where Bngo is going to go from here. If we see a continued bull run, we've been seeing that ever since the beginning of this year. If we see that continue, we are going to break out of this resistance at some point. That could be a very good point as a swing trade. But if that doesn't happen, if we continue in a bear cycle, just watch that we don't break our May 11 low. This is right around the 119 area. But let's get into these couple of clips. I don't want this to drag on too long. It's going to take me forever to upload. I've got quite slow internet. But I did want to mention you guys in a little bit here, I'm going to be covering Indie Semiconductor. We do have some recent news about an acquisition, and they are also releasing earnings here after hours. I will be covering that, Lord willing, that I have enough time before I have to go. Thanks as always for watching, guys. Let's roll those clips, and make sure you check out down below for the full video. It's definitely worth watching.
As we started the collaboration with BioNano, we reached out to our friends, hematologists, oncologists in the country. Everybody in the developing world wants to try out new things. They want to be better, do better. All of these doctors from across the country showed interest. The BioNano team was able to put in place the logistics for sample pickup. So we were able to collaborate very effectively. Adoption of the technology is very rapid. Most of the clinical trials which we have today are, again, on targeted therapies. I feel our generation is actually seeing this transition between the conventional karyotype to what probably is the next generation karyotype. All the usual tests that we did, whether it was the usual genomic tests such as karyotype, FISH, and NGS, failed to give us an answer. And OGM actually told us what exactly was the genomic aberrancy.
I have two daughters. They are one is 9-year-old and second one is 5-year-old. She before was crying regularly. That only after that biopsy and everything. After meeting Sachin sir, now family is very happy that we are getting the days back.
Move forward to me means curing as many patients with whatever resources are available. Human emotions are universal. Everybody has the same anxieties, fears, and positivity, a willingness to do everything. Hope is universal. Everybody is hoping that, this doctor, this hospital will give me the answer. My understanding of patient psyche is they are intelligent. They are extremely intelligent and they want to know. It's our responsibility to do everything that is possible, not only in terms of treatment, but also in terms of counseling and explaining to them. The reach that we have achieved by building teams and not just focusing on my practice, my patient, but saying, hey, look, you do this, we will empower you, we will handhold you until your department is set, and then you treat X number of patients or Y number of patients in Mumbai, you do that in Nagpur, you do that in Tanzania, in Dar es Salaam. And for me, the most satisfying bit is seeing the teams which are giving this output. And I hope that we can leave healthcare delivery in a slightly better state when we retire than when we got in, and then we should fade away. And if we could fade away and the momentum continues, I think that would be the most satisfying thing to do. So as long as we can continue to improve on the successes, that's more important.
What you saw today is a journey that is not unique to Kalpesh, the patient. This is shared by millions of patients around the world. And I think the critical thing to understand is that as of today, only 50% of such patients get any usable answer. Kalpesh, as you saw in the video, is a 35-year-old male who has 2 lovely daughters. And as he mentioned, he started developing some skin itching and symptoms and was just visiting the dermatologist for 6 months. It wasn't until he started to witness weight loss that a complete blood profiling was done to reveal that he had some elevated basophils and eosinophils. That led to a suspicion of a hematological malignancy. That was the impetus for him getting a bone marrow biopsy. And as you heard, none of the standard of care tests revealed any informative results. He was enrolled in the BioNano research program to run optical genome mapping at our facility, and it revealed a very unique fusion involving 2 genes, PDGFRA and PRKG2. The unique thing about this fusion is that this is a target for a tyrosine kinase inhibitor. And what you saw in the video is that this individual, based on this research testing and protocol, received a drug, dasatinib, and started to respond. What you also saw is the treating hematopathologist, Dr. Sachin Jadhav, who's really engaged in transforming the status of healthcare, in trying to provide the best solutions and answers to his patients and their families. I think this is such an incredible journey. But what we all need to understand is that the standard of care today for cytogenetics for the past 4 or 5 decades has been karyotyping, FISH, and microarray. Now, sequencing certainly has evolved and provides the information for all the sequence variants that are required for the accurate diagnosis and management of any cancer. What you see on this slide is what BioNano offers. Optical genome mapping is a tool that not only provides the highest resolution of structural variants, but as you can see, also bridges the gap to be able to provide an entire comprehensive analysis of the genome along with sequencing. Why does this matter? As you also saw, that based on these different tests that are often performed in a tiered fashion, the patients, the oncologist, and the pathologist, they all are really basically faced with getting multiple reports and trying to synthesize these diverse answers that they get from these diverse technologies. And this is very challenging. And I hope that you will see today that this is another problem that we at BioNano are tackling. What you see on this slide are the different capabilities of next-generation sequencing methods and optical genome mapping, and the combination of 2 can provide the most comprehensive analysis of the variant continuum, which is really required for any diagnostic odyssey. So, as I mentioned earlier, we have been facing these challenges for the past several decades. And to address the sensitivity and specificity of some of these challenges, it becomes critical that do we have tools that can allow the integration of reporting of these different methods, because that also, as you'll hear from some of our key opinion leaders today, is really critical because they need to get those answers fast. So what BioNano provides is VIA, a software tool that will allow users to visualize, analyze, annotate, interpret, and report.
And since 14 years, I'm coming to AGBT, and it's great to see you back. I'll explain some more details about the case where you just witnessed in the video, but I'll also show a little bit more. If I sound excited about optical genome mapping, I hope you believe me that that's not only because Bionano here and there sponsored some reagents, but it's really the content that now allows us to be excited. I actually was here at AGBT exactly 4 years ago, and exactly at that AGBT meeting, our team back in the lab was trained on OGM, so we're using OGM exactly since 4 years. Since then, we've processed more than 700 genomes and analyzed them by OGM. And there's really two main applications in our institute for this technology. One is the ambition and goal to replace almost all of cytogenetics, and importantly, the standard of care methods. So that it's largely karyotyping fish and CNV microarrays. But something I'm also really fond of is using it to discover structure variants that we missed so far and that really explain rare diseases. And I'll give you examples of both of those applications that we use in-house. But obviously, I know that AGBT is like filled with people that are super enthusiastic about sequencing, and that's the same for me. I think it's fair to say that I'm also a kind of sequencing addict, and I'm super excited about the NGS, particularly also all the long-read developments, and that's one of the main reasons I'm here. But there may be some people that after my talk hopefully also get excited about the opportunities that optical genome mapping offers. And here's just my very personal, private hit list of things why I like OGM. First of all, it's very easy. I think people here come from very advanced laboratories, and they all have an entire armada of bioinformaticians at hand. But we have to realize that's a true privilege. There's a lot of labs that run arrays as a standard tool, and they're not really skilled in bioinformatics. So with OGM, you click 3 times if you know about array analysis, and you're done. Furthermore, we have to realize around the globe there's a lot of cytogeneticists that are kind of afraid of sequencing approaches, and they can use this technology to find very intuitively cytogenetic aberrations. One key feature that we like in particular for somatic structure variant detection is that we can generate extremely deep genome coverage for the same price as for germline. And hopefully I'll show you some stories that, studies that really show that there's an extremely low false positive rate with this technology. And then important again for the AGBT crowd, it's not competing here, it's really something that complements each other. So I think sequencing, short and long read, can be very complementary at this very stage to OGM. And originally I was trained in a cytogenetic laboratory 18 years ago back in Germany, and I have to admit, it's an art. I really was not good at it. Recognizing chromosomes is really, really not trivial. And now, with OGM, I can analyze chromosomes. I can just look at them, and it's intrinsically easy and simple and straightforward. So with all of that in mind, I hope I can get you on board to say, hey, it's quite a cool test, and we can really use it for future purposes. And that's one thing, if I'm excited, well, there's also colleagues in diagnostics that got excited, and also our management got excited. So we recently invested in broadening our machine park, and we just got another Sapphire in, and we also just purchased a long string Vantage from Hamilton that allows ultra-long DNA molecule isolation, so we can automate and really scale up our throughput for OGM. All right, I just brought 2 slides on the more clinical standard of care replacement approaches that we're aiming for. 2 studies we published 1.5 years ago really were retrospective studies with a very simple question, approaching our cytogenetic laboratory for constitutional and hematological malignancies, asking, give us good showcases, give us 50 or 85 samples that have the very important clinically relevant aberrations, and we just put OGM at test. And the surprise is we reached 100% concordance for all the clinically relevant aberrations. So that was great news. We've done other implementations of novel technologies, and 100% is really not so easy to reach. So that was a very positive surprise. That was sufficient to convince our management to invest in a prospective study, so a true blinded study on one specific type of leukemia, AML. So they were now just finished a study of 50 samples in total, and they were blinded. So our diagnostic employees blinded for the outcome per sample, studied 50 samples, and then afterwards we compared the results, optical genome mapping via the standard of care. 50 samples, and again we reached 100% concordance, and this time even for even smaller clones down to a variant allele fraction of 5%. And again, if I'm excited, one thing, but our diagnostic employees that are really used to the standard of care, they really love it because for them reporting only takes 25% or 20% of the time. So instead of looking at karyotyping fish and array in a sequential manner, now you all get it. With a few clicks, you're there. So it's getting simpler and simpler. Also important, in 10% of samples in this specific study, and it's replicating other studies that are out, we find more details about aberrations that have been identified by karyotyping or fish. And importantly, in 10% of samples, we also find additional clinically relevant findings that standard of care missed.
We've really been able to figure out what is going on at a much higher level of resolution. In fact, we had a case recently where we saw a chromosome 5 that we called it an AD5Q. It was all, we could see that some of the 5 was there. It was mixed up. We didn't know what it was. We were like, okay, good luck. We did OGM on it, and there's a PDGFR beta SSBP2 rearrangement hidden in a double inversion on that chromosome.
We feel so strongly that through all of this innovation, we have identified where optical genome mapping fits so beautifully in the world of genome analysis, really as this incredibly powerful alternative to karyotyping, the global standard for the last 50 years, and techniques around it. We also feel very strongly that side by side against sequencing, it's not really about mapping versus sequencing, it's what can mapping and sequencing do. And so for us moving forward is really embracing all of these solutions together with your incredible ideas. That's why this innovation research grant we think is so incredibly powerful. And as Sheila mentioned, throughout this event, if you track one of us down, not everybody's going to be dressed like me, but I'm going to wear like as long as I possibly can. If you can track us down, you'll find us. Please come to us. Talk to us about running a project. Something that happens, Chad Collier knows this, Jeff Robinson knows this, something that happens when a lab interacts with optical genome mapping data, it's always mind-blowing. And so we want you to have data on your samples, on your projects, so you can really see the value.